5 free transfers going into game week 10, but with Pedro, Reinders to name a few of my team, I might need all of these transfers to sort out this squad. So as always, if you look forward to today's video, make sure to drop a like and of course hit that subscribe button. Enough waffling, let's get to today's video. First up, a quick recap on how game week 9 went, because I'm going to be honest with you, before the Spurs-Everton game, I was ranked 800k. I was in dreamland in game week 9. And then all of a sudden, Van de Ven goes and bags a brace, a clean sheet, 3 bonus points at the ownership, and he has decimated my chances of a huge green arrow. And I'm currently sat at 1.1 million, which is 100,000k green arrow. But regardless, it could have been so much more. So congrats to anybody that owned Van de Ven. You have hurt a lot of managers out there, but you must be in joyland right now. Please let me know in the comment section if you're one of those that owned Van de Ven. But 51 points for my team in a week where I rolled my transfer. I'm actually pretty happy with it. The double Arsenal defence coming in clutch once again, Raya and Gabriel. Gabriel just looks, if you don't own him already, a pretty essential pick, because whenever Arsenal are up against backs against the wall, he's the one that's walking away with either defensive contributions or bonus points. And even though Raya for me is not going to get the save points or nevertheless the bonus points, I still think he is a good pick in the game. Would I be buying him now? Probably not, but am I going to look to sell him? No. I think the double Arsenal defense is here to stay. Rodon carrying the team with this 13-pointer. If you take out those 13 points, then really this is a pretty awful game week. So I have to thank Rodon for really carrying the team from Friday night onwards. The audacity I had to almost be disappointed with not getting 17 points with that last-minute clean sheet is probably not worth talking about on this video. Sinesti with the 5-pointer, but again, the ownership is massive. And Tarkowski just continuing to be a huge disappointment in this team and questioning whether Everton are really a good team to invest in or not. We'll touch on that later on. The midfield three are Semenyo, Fernandes and Ndai. Less said the better on that scenario, and even more on the forwards. Gyökeres with the 2-pointer. The only good thing about that is that Saka basically matched him, so there wasn't any huge swing like I was anticipating in that game. Pedro, will talk about him because that guy, I can guarantee you, will be leaving my team in game week 10. And then Erling Haaland is what it is. The guy has been in electric form. It was going to end at some point, and it was against what would probably be seen now as a bit more of a reinvigorated Aston Villa team. Even though they slipped up in the Europa League, I do expect Emery to get things sorted out in the Premier League. Thankfully, I didn't bench boost because I would have had 3 points. So all in all good. 51 points, rolled the transfer, green arrow. Pretty happy days. Let me know how you got on in the comment section. Now let's take a look ahead to game week 10. So let's take a look at my current game week 10 team without any transfers being made. And it's really important every single week that we address the team that we have and ask ourselves, what players are sticking around for game week 10? Which ones can actually be held for game week 10 but are going to be sells in the future? And ones that are just right now, here in the present, need to be gone. Because in my situation with 5 free transfers, I've hit the Holy Land. I actually have hit the 5 free transfers for the first time since they introduced it in the game. And it does cause more headaches sometimes. But in my position right now with some of the players that I'm going to touch on, I think I need these transfers, I'm going to be honest. And I've got the luxury of 0.8 million in the bank. So I know there was a price rise at the start of the week with Mateta, but I've allowed that to happen because we, of course, do have games midweek. We'll touch on those later on. So when we look at my current team right now, I'm going to be honest, I actually think the starting 11 is perfectly fine. Double Arsenal defence, Raya and Gabriel, absolutely locked into this team right now. There's no need for me to move away from those. Anderson, currently yellow flagged. I got to basically put him down as a wait and see. If he's available, he obviously plays against a Wolves team that are still struggling in the Premier League. But also, I need to consider options if he is going to be ruled out for game week 10, because the Fulham fixtures, as we progress, do start to get worse and worse. And then I question whether Anderson is actually worth investing in, even though from a defensive contribution perspective, he is good. We have to focus on the fixtures before the defensive contributions in my eyes. Tarkowski is going to be the first one that I am going to say is potentially on the chopping block. I still think he offers some value, but Sunderland have proved that they're decent, and Everton are still not doing it for me. And the problem, 5.5 million for Tarkowski is too much money. It is far too much money tied up in a guy who Doesn't necessarily get the goals. Yes, he gets the defensive contributions, but if Everton are not locking down teams with clean sheets, then I really beg the question, why am I invested in an Everton defender? So Tarkowski, the first one that really is on the chopping block. Semenyo, don't have to talk about him. He is sticking around in this team, even though it is away against Man City. Reinders, the second one. He is absolutely on the chopping block. Played as a centre defensive mid in their most recent game because of the injuries to Nico Gonzalez and Rodri. And even though he did have an opportunity, it was outside of the box. We're not seeing that Reinders that we saw in game week 1, and that is a long time ago. So I think even though Reinders can come good at some point, I don't think it is worth investing in right now. So Tarkowski, Reinders, Bruno, an interesting discussion because, of course, we have Mbeumo sat there right now who looks sensational. But away against Nottingham Forest, Sean Dyche, who is probably going to make this game very difficult, I don't see the upside in making that move to Mbeumo this week. So Bruno sticks around, and Dye, unless I really need to get rid of him, I still think he's fine. The reason being is for this. Gyökeres, Pedro, problems. Big problems. Now, João Pedro for me is in a position where we got to sell him. He's not taking shots. He's not doing the link-up play for Chelsea to actually create in the final third. He is doing all the stuff in the midfield. It's not good enough. Now, Delap is going to return, and we might see a rejuvenation in João Pedro, something to consider, but I just think there are other forwards available which we're going to touch on. So, Tarkowski, Reinders, Pedro. Gyökeres is absolutely on the list. However, I still don't think Arsenal are fantastic going forward. And I think Saka still is not fully fit 100%. So I don't see enough right now to do the jump from Gyökeres to Saka as of right now. Maybe I might be wrong there, but I think that's 3 big players that we need to address in this team. Hence why the 5 free transfers were being accumulated to this very point. So let's take a look at the fixtures, some players to consider, and also my actual transfer plans. So for anyone that regularly watches this, you know that for me, fixtures are so important in the game. So we always have a quick section, very quick, just to analyse what is coming up in the future and also some notes that we need to consider if we have not actually thought about them. Now, I've got it running from game week 10 to 15 because, of course, after this, we get our 5 African Cup of Nations transfers. Hopefully you knew that already. So I think whatever happens, really we're only looking up until game week 15 because then we're all going to get loads of transfers and we could do mini wildcards effectively. So I'm just focusing on these next 6 game weeks. So you can see top of the ticker is going to be Crystal Palace. Bottom is going to be Brentford. Now, there's going to be a big scramble to Crystal Palace, 100%. Looking at the fixtures, now I don't think they're easy. Don't get me wrong. Brentford is showing that they can be resolute at times. Brighton is always a tricky test. Wolves away are obviously struggling. Man United, maybe a rejuvenated Man United team, but I will still say Palace have the tools to hurt them because I think they're probably better in their own formation. Then Burnley away and then Fulham away. So we would say definitely the fixtures are there for Crystal Palace to target. But I do just want to note a few things here, the 2 points. Firstly, if you're moving early on Crystal Palace, it's absolutely fine. I actually think it's a good move, especially if you've got a lot of transfers in the bank. However, Liverpool do play Crystal Palace in the EFL Cup 4th round. Liverpool under a lot of pressure right now, so they're going to play a strong team. And I also think Crystal Palace are going to play a strong team. I don't really think they have the squad depth to put anything else out. And I do get the impression with Glasner that he likes these challenges. So, yes, Mateta may get benched for Enquiries. I'll be surprised. So just be cautious. If you are making early transfers on Palace, and I think a lot of people will, if you can, let this Liverpool-Palace game play out and then make your moves even on that very night if you want to, if we don't see any sort of injury niggles from Palace players. And also European fixtures we need to account for because we are getting into that busy period where it's always the case. Yes, we do have another international break coming up. It's like the 5th one this season, but European fixtures between game weeks 10 and 11. So the teams on our screens right now include Crystal Palace, Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle, Chelsea, Forest, Man City. Big teams that we're looking to invest in. Game weeks 10 to 11. So, for example, Palace, in between Brentford and Brighton, they have got European football. And then between Wolves and Man United, they've got European football. Now, the big issue for me right now, and it's not enough to put me off Crystal Palace players, but take their run, for example. They got Brentford at home. Then they got European football, which they got to win that. And then they got Brighton. Neither of those teams have European football themselves. So that's tricky. Both teams are going to be fully rested against a Palace team that, of course, have a very thin squad. Then, game week 12 against what we'd almost call a relegation battling Wolves right now. No European football. Then Palace have got European football. And then they play Man United, who don't have European football. So even though the fixtures look really good, they're up against teams that don't have anything to play for other than Premier League effectively. So just be cautious of that. That's why I'm touching on Brighton. I think they're really good to invest in. As good fixtures, I would argue, and no European football. The question always of Brighton is, who do we actually go for? Well, I think Van Heck defence is okay. I think Minter, but I do think he's a little bit of a flash in the pan asset sometimes. You either get the big returns or you just kind of tick along with 2 pointers. Very hard to invest in. Otherwise, what I want to say is, game weeks 12 and 13, you do have to earmark because Liverpool are terrible right now, but you cannot deny the fixtures are good from game week 12 onwards. Same applies to Man City in game week 13. So I know there's going to be a big scramble to use all your transfers in game week 10 and 11, but if you don't have to use them all, keeping a few back will benefit you in future game weeks. I do really believe that. So make a note of these fixtures. Be cautious on Palace, but not enough that you don't have to invest in them. But maybe we'll look back at this in maybe a month's time and say to ourselves, oh, actually, European football really does hurt those teams that have thin squads. I hope it doesn't, because I probably will buy Palace assets, but just have it in the back of your mind. So take a look at my game week 10 transfer plans. As we said, 5 free transfers, 0.8 million in the bank. Sometimes can cause more headaches than what it's worth, but I do still think this is a good spot to be in. Now, it's worth noting as well, I do still have the bench boost available alongside triple captain and free hit. You can see it at the bottom there. I use the wild card in game week 6. Bench boost is actually causing a bit of headache for myself. So firstly, just to address that situation, there is a world that I could play it in game week 11. Basically what I'm looking at with my team, just skipping it to game week 11 in a minute, is asking myself, the really cheap players, the Leeds and Burnley, Dubravka, Stack and Rodon, when do they have a game week where I can actually play them? And game week 11 actually looks okay. Dubravka away against West Ham. And it does beg the question, shall I just get it done, get out of the way? But I also do think later on in the season, of course, we need to use our chips by the game week 19 deadline. I'm in a position where maybe if we get to game week 17, around that sort of time, where we're going to have all of our African Cup of Nations transfers, I feel like I could put myself in a position where if I have 5 free transfers in game week 16 and then I use 5 additional in the African Cup of Nations, I could build a decent 15-man squad, bench boost in 17 around that time, and then move away from those players. So that is the current plan for those that are asking about bench boost. Really flexible. Not an ideal position to be in, but flexibility is the way I want to play it. So looking at my team for game week 10, as we've spoken about, Tarkowski, we have got Reinders, we got João Pedro. Those are the big ones right now where I am just happy to move away from them. Now, I could keep Tarkowski 100%. Sunderland away, though, looks tough. Fulham at home, yeah, I think that's okay. But then United away and then Newcastle at home, I don't see loads of clean sheets over that period, I'm going to be honest with you. And at 5.5 million, a lot of money to be invested in my team. So if we just get rid of those 3 players that I've spoken about and we talk about them as just problem players, then players I think are natural replacements is going to include Mateta. That is just where everybody's going to go. And to be honest with you, the numbers have been really good for him. The fixtures coming up for him include Brentford, Brighton, Wolves, Man United, Burnley, Fulham. I think they're good enough fixtures, but I do want to take into account that European football. That's the only thing I want to note. Then in terms of a midfielder, I mean, Enzo is still a decent pick. But while others have gone Enzo, I think Sarr is one that I always ask myself, can I get to him? Because I think he consistently is a decent performer. When he doesn't get the points, he usually has the underlying numbers and he's got the fixtures. So I think that's a decent route to go for. And then really, 5.2 million in the bank, loads of flexibility. Now again, we looked at the fixtures earlier. Palace still top of the ticker. Brighton are up there as well. But again, do I trust Brighton defensively? Maybe not as much as that as Palace. And when we look at the fixtures for game week 10 in isolation, I think Brighton do have a decent fixture at home against Leeds. Palace, of course, against a Brentford team who are scoring goals, it's worth noting. That really is it. So this could be anything from Richards, and I go triple up on the Palace, because I think that's really the only 3 that I am considering. So I don't feel fearful of missing out on any other Palace players later down the line. And then I think my team is looking okay. I'm completely dependent on Anderson, of course. And if Anderson is ruled out once again, we look at the fixtures for him coming up. If he misses 10, Everton, Sunderland, Spurs, City, Palace, I don't think that's a good run at all. I do then ask the question, is Anderson really worth investing in? And if that is the position we're in, then maybe Anderson too, maybe a Van Heck that we discussed, who's only 4.4 million. And if we look at the fixtures of Van Heck, Leeds, Palace, Brentford, Forest, Villa, West Ham, not a bad long-term run. I don't think he is a terrible pick. So Van Heck could come in for Anderson. I'd be using 4 free transfers, but I think I'll be getting rid of a lot of issues in my team. And then the team for game week 10 picks itself. And then going into game week 11, Raya and Gabriel for their double. We got Van Heck and Richards, which, again, the Van Heck fixture isn't incredible. But if we look at the game week 11 fixtures in isolation, where are the big clean sheets? Well, probably the player that I sold away from in Tarkowski. Yes, I would give you that one. Chelsea against Wolves. Chelsea, very hard to predict what centre defenders they're actually going to play centre-backs. And really outside of that, Forest are the ones that I am potentially looking at as a differential investment. So ideally, Anderson is fit. He resolves a lot of issues in this team. But then looking at my team for game week 11, I think I've covered off all the bases. Yes, Bruno to Mbeumo is going to be tempting, 100%. But I do think for these 2 fixtures coming up for Man United in particular, I'm happy just to sit on Bruno and see what happens. So to conclude, I do think the triple Palace is very likely for my team. I think it addresses a lot of the issues in this squad. Tarkowski is not really the one that I want to own. So I think Mateta is pretty much a lock for João Pedro. And I think Sarr for Reinders makes a lot of sense. But I do think the defender spot is really up for grabs. I think this could easily be Van Heck straight out the bat. This could be Michael Keane if I want to stick around with Everton. I think that is the spot that really is up for grabs. But I do think I'll be using 3 free transfers this week to sort out the big issues in this team. If I'm missing anything, let me know in the comment section. Just to talk about the Gyökeres Saka spot, I do think that is a decent move. And it would help improve my stack spot right here. But where I think defenders are actually way more valuable than that of midfielders, I don't feel inclined right now to actually upgrade stack to anybody else. I think Rodon's perfectly fine to play in any fixture. I think Senesi's proved that he can play in any fixture. So stack is just going to stick around for now until I really want to upgrade him to another player. If you can see a good spot, let me know in the comment section. But I'm pretty content with those moves right now. But I'm happy to let that Palace game happen midweek before pulling the trigger. Yes, guys, okay, that's going to wrap up today's video. Looking at my Game Week 10 transfer plans, as you can see, loads of options available. And I definitely will be making at least 2 transfers, most likely 3. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop a like and, of course, hit that subscribe button. Any questions, pop them in the comment section. I'll be sure to get to them. And importantly, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.